So, can a deadline make you write better music? Can it help you write better music? Can it help you write music full stop? That's what I want to explore in this video. And in case you're looking for a bottom line, the answer is possibly. Now, before we get started, hands up anyone who has a hard disk littered with unfinished projects. Yes, me too, of course, guilty as charged. Here's one piece I haven't finished. Here's another piece I haven't finished. Here's another. Okay, I think you get the point. You don't want to listen to my unfinished symphonies. Not that they ever were that grand. But the point is, I think every single musician, every songwriter, every composer, every producer gets so far with some projects and then it just sort of fizzles out. Now, if you are a media composer or a professional composer, if you are creating music for someone else, you do not have that luxury. You have to finish the work on time, otherwise the whole project will go pear-shaped, and the chances of you getting any more work from that person or from that company is very slim. So, is it true that deadlines work for professional composers? Well, I can mainly speak on the subject of deadlines from the position of a writer. I spent 25 years or something writing reviews of equipment, music software, doing tutorials and so on for music magazines. I was also a professional musician, although never a professional composer as such. Although I did release a couple of albums, I'm not sure if they count, but they are on this channel and I will link to them up there and in the description. But music is slightly different to writing, I think. They both require a degree of creativity, but music is a slightly more abstract sort of creativity, I think, because we all use words every single day. Music, not so much. We get a great idea, we sit down at our instrument, our keyboard, our guitar, our computer, we get inspired, we create something really good and really interesting, and it sort of fizzles out, the inspiration, and our muse just disappears. So what's going on here? Well, I like the quote that runs along the lines of, I only write when I'm inspired, and I make sure I'm inspired at 9 o'clock every morning. This has been credited to 2 or 3 writers and a similar sentiment to various other artists, but I think it also applies to music. Now, as any media composer will affirm, I'm pretty sure, when you're up against a deadline, something else kicks in. Now, this may be conscious or unconscious, but I think this is the secret, if you like, to using the deadline to get more from your music, to finish music, to complete it. And that is craft. So we usually think of music as being an art form, and of course it is. But in every art, there is also an element of craft. This is where you learn the trade. A writer learns how to put words together in the most compact or insightful or entertaining way. They learn about grammar and about punctuation. An artist will learn how to mix colours. They will learn how to draw shapes. A musician, well, what does a musician learn? What do you know about music? What do you know about the craft of music? Now, this isn't a trick question. It doesn't matter what your skill level as a musician is. It doesn't really matter how much music theory you know, although I might say something a bit more about that in a second. It doesn't matter how proficient you are at the keyboard. If you are a composer or a producer, if you make music, then you have a skill. And the application of that skill does not rely solely upon the muse floating down and hitting you with inspiration. It also relies on you using your skills and abilities in the music field to create and put together a piece of music. This is the craft of it. And media composers are excellent at their craft. They have to be. They cannot wait for inspiration to strike. They have to sit down. They have to do the work. They have to use their craft. They have to use their knowledge of music, of the instrument, whatever it may be, to put together the piece of music that is required. Now, in case you're thinking, well, I'm not really a skilled musician. I know what I like. I can use my DAW or my keyboard or sequencer or whatever it is, but I don't have a lot of craft. Well, you see, I don't think that's actually true. If you've written any sort of piece of music, then you are using skills which a non-musician will not have. A non-musician could probably not write a piece of music. If you've done that before, then you are streets and light years ahead of someone who is not a musician. And the trick, if there is a one, which I'm not sure that there is, but the trick or the secret is to bring out your craft when the muse disappears. I've been thinking about making a video like this for some time, and I was probably pushed into it by watching a video by LNA Does Audio. You may well know her and subscribe to her channel. I'm going to link to the video in the description. And in the video she created a piece in 1 hour using a weird sort of random chance roulette wheel thing to determine what sort of sounds and so on that she was going to put into the track. Now, what was very apparent from this, and if you take anything away from this, then take away these two things. The first thing is she knew her DAW, which was Ableton, back to front, inside out, upside down, and any other way that you can imagine Ableton being. This is her production tool. It did not in any way, shape or form get in the way of her music production. In fact, just the opposite. It was as if it was a third hand. It was the means by which she produced the music. So the first thing I would say is, if you are perhaps struggling to finish a project, make sure that you know your equipment inside out, back to front and upside down, whether you are using a DAW or hardware. Now, this is important because they are your tools, and if you understand your tools and know how to use them, make sure that they will help you and not hinder you. The second takeaway, and this comes from LNA herself, is that the whole experience was fun. And let's be honest, you do not get much more of a tighter deadline than 1 hour to create a track. So what I'm suggesting here is that you give yourself artificial deadlines, if you like, to finish a project. Do not wait for your muse of inspiration to come back. Maybe it will, but as my unfinished projects prove to myself, and perhaps your unfinished projects prove to yourself, maybe it will not come back. So at that point, you need to engage your craft. And I think one of the best ways to do that is to give yourself a deadline. Now, be realistic. Don't say, well, I'll give myself an hour to finish a project. LNA can do it. Can you do it? I don't know. Maybe you can. If so, that is fine. But personally, if it was a shortish piece, a few minutes long, I would probably give myself two. If it was a shortish piece. But personally, if it was a shortish piece, perhaps a few minutes long, then I would give myself 2, maybe 3 days. Now, if you give yourself a deadline which extends to the end of next week or next month, and it's a short piece, you know what's going to happen. It's not going to have any effect. You need to feel a little bit of pressure, something which will get your craft into gear and help you finish the project. Of course, if you're writing a symphony or an opera, you might give yourself a slightly longer deadline. Richard Wagner apparently took 20 years to write his Ring Cycle. I don't think I've got that long left in me. But I don't think I'll be starting any operas anytime soon. So when you've got your deadline, you need to work towards it, bring your craft to bear. And by that, I mean just use your experience, however large or small it may be. If you've composed music before, you can use what you've learned in past projects and apply those to your current project. Now, there are dozens and dozens of videos and websites showing you and explaining how to develop one theme into another theme, how to arrange music, how to create beats. So I would suggest brushing up on some essentials if you're a bit shaky about them before you get started. What we're trying to do here is to remove any impediment to your ability to complete the project, which is why it's important that you know your equipment. Now, personally, I always find it inspirational to watch people do this sort of thing. And I have to say that one of my very favourite YouTubers in this area is Guy Michelmore. You probably subscribe to him already. If you don't, I will leave a link in the description. Guy is a film and media composer, and in his videos he typically will write a piece of music within 45 minutes. You see him from start to finish deciding what it's going to be about, what instruments he's going to use. You see him working out the patterns. It is an amazing experience watching him do this. Quite often they're short pieces of music, but sometimes he does write music to film, so you see what he is doing, what his thought processes are, what instruments he uses. Now, there's a lot more to say about this. I might revisit it in another video, but there's a lot of material about working to deadlines out there on the web, so check them out if you want to. But specifically in relation to creating music and finishing music, I'd be really interested to know what you think. If this has been helpful or perhaps not helpful at all, well, let me know in the comments. I am, of course, speaking mainly from my own personal experience. I don't know what your experience is in this field. It's a process I find absolutely fascinating, the composition process, what our brains are doing and telling us to do. So I hope you found this interesting. More to the point, I hope you found it useful. So as ever, thank you for watching. I do appreciate the time you spend watching my videos and listening to my music, even though there were only a few pieces in this video and all of them were totally unfinished. I do appreciate it, and for that, thank you very much indeed. Let me know how you get on with deadlines, and I will see you in the next video.